trade. Jimmy Butler.
Huge deal for them.
After the break, we will discuss if teams who trade away any stars are getting enough in return. Speaking of Jimmy Butler. Remember
And DeMarcus.
Everybody liked Buddy Hield? Buddy Hield, big star.
Well, Vivek Ranadive likes him.
I don't know.
Victor Oladipo.
George, all-stars are moving, and young guys are coming back.
Agency Special, presented by Kia.
Oh, once again, we got NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski. That sounds good. Doesn't it sound good, Woj? You like that? From Bristol, Connecticut?
Absolutely.
Hometown?
Yep.
Hey, you've been working the phones, texting. I saw you like all through the commercial break texting. What is the latest on Toronto? They got 2 free agents. Kyle, actually, they have 3 with PJ Tucker, too. Kyle Lowry, Serge Ibaka, and PJ Tucker. Where do they stand?
Well, Toronto's president, Masai Ujiri, was in Orlando today, the site of Summer League, and he spent some time with Andy Miller, who's the agent for both Kyle Lowry and Serge Ibaka, and they've been going back and forth on new deals for both players. Neither deal is imminent, but the negotiation is taken on its life, and they're trying to progress toward deals for both players. Another thing Toronto's doing here is they're trying to get salary off, and Damari Carroll is a player that Toronto has talked to several teams, and teams who have we talked earlier about Phoenix being in position to want to take on a contract like Carroll's and maybe try to get an asset with it. Brooklyn remains in that space. They did it with Mozgov, and that's Brooklyn's way to get draft picks, to try to get young players, and is to take on contracts. But Carroll's contract is big. Toronto doesn't necessarily have great draft assets, especially if they're going to bring everybody back. They're going to be really good. What's a pick in the mid-20s or late 20s worth to take on that money? So those are all things that teams are weighing. But Toronto's weighing 2 things. One, bringing everybody back and making a run at it. And they're also looking at going young. They're looking at what it's going to cost to keep this team together versus maybe taking a step back and
Interesting.
Not continuing to try to compete for an Eastern Conference championship in the short term.
Wow, that's interesting, because I think we've thought Toronto was right there and they're just trying to keep everyone together. But if they go young, there's a lot of interesting guys and pieces that they've accumulated there. Next question. Danilo Gallinari. Okay, so Denver's meeting with Paul Millsap. Are they out on Gallo, or where is he going? What's his market?
No, Denver remains really interested in bringing Gallinari back. He opted out financially. It's a great. It allows him to get into free agency, and he can re-sign, obviously, on a longer deal. But what Tim Connolly, Mike Malone, and Denver have always loved about Gallinari is, he was a player who really liked being there, and a really good player who liked the community, liked living there. And when they have those players, they want to try to keep them. But what's going to be, I think, their greatest test here are going to be the Clippers. The Clippers have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow with Gallinari in L.A., and the Clippers are going to be aggressive in their presentation. We've seen their creativity in these free agent presentations, and they're going to be aggressive financially, and they're going to have to get some money off to get into the range it's going to take to get Gallinari. It may break right for him. Based on what happens elsewhere in free agency. If Gordon Hayward doesn't go to Boston, Gallinari is in play there potentially. But he could be in that neighborhood of $17, $18, $19 million a year. And the Clippers have tried to get at Gallinari in trades in recent years. And now that they have a chance at him in free agency, they're being really aggressive right now.
Okay, so if the Celtics strike out on Hayward, I heard you mention Gallinari as a backup plan. What would they think? I mean, were they as surprised as everybody else was that Paul George ended up moving to Oklahoma City? And did they see that coming at all?
Well, sources told me involved in that process that Indiana went back to Boston before they did the deal with Oklahoma City and wanted really a offer. And Boston never, I was told, gave them a real offer to take and consider. They had talked about Marcus Smart, they had talked about Jay Crowder, and those were young players that I was told Indiana had interest in with multiple picks, whether that would be 2 picks, 3 picks. But when they went back to Boston, they didn't get that back. Boston wasn't ready to make that offer. Now, maybe Boston didn't believe they were about to do a deal. Indiana had done that in the process with a few teams. Hey, we're about to do this, give us your offer, and then you cry wolf, you don't do it. And that's part of negotiations. But in the end, Indiana didn't really have something to consider, and that's when they pulled the trigger and did the OKC deal.
Well, this is obviously we'll be dissecting the trades and the not trade that happened with Paul George for this summer, and then probably again as we head into next summer. Thanks for joining us. Get back to work, and then at some point get some sleep.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Trying to imagine what the shirt would be for the Clippers for Gallinari. Would it have like Da Vinci, Michelangelo?
No, stop. You can't do it.
Marco Polo.
If they do that,
Gallinari.
I'm out on the Clippers if they do that. Come on. Come on now. Hey, what is better than a GM having as many as 8 first-round picks over the next 4 drafts? If you're Danny Ainge, nothing. Well, there have been reports of the Celtics deals that never materialized. There's a growing sentiment that Boston's GM doesn't want to part with all of his draft picks. I mean, is it fair to criticize Ainge for hoarding his picks? You like my visual?
Yeah, no. Yeah. I got to quote one of my favorite players, David West, and say, the Egyptians taught us you don't get buried with it. They can bury you with it, but you can't do anything with it afterward.
Yep.
I don't know what he's waiting for.
Really?
Look, I get, for the Paul George situation specifically, I get it. Because the timing, as we've talked about, was you have to secure Gordon Hayward first and then do a Paul George deal. The other way around doesn't quite work math-wise as far as having the cap space to do it. So I get that one. But just overall reticence, like, I don't know, because as we talk about all the time, on some level, the value of the pick, much like a new car, when you drive it off the lot, instantly goes down. As soon as I use the pick to take Jason Tatum, it's just not as sexy as saying, I'll give you the number 3 pick in the draft, even though they're one and the same.
Well, I feel like Boston could still end up being a big winner here. They could still have a team in 3 years that is the best team in the East, sustainable for 7 or 8 years. But they have opened themselves up to major criticism and major second-guessing by passing on DeMarcus, passing on Paul George, passing on Jimmy Butler. Look, whether or not they made an offer or not, those guys were available. They didn't close the deal. And trading the number 1 overall pick. You look at those 4 decisions, and Danny Ainge has stuck his neck out that if he isn't able to deliver a championship-level team over the next couple of years, he's going to be majorly judged on these decisions.
Let's talk about some of the downfalls, the risks right now. So, one, you've got, obviously, guys like Pat Riley just throwing shade at you. He's not a closer, right? So other free agents are hearing this and saying, well, maybe they're not really about winning right now in Boston. The other thing is, we're making a huge assumption here when we say, oh, he's patient. Hey, wait. That he's ready to pay Isaiah Thomas next year, 5 years, whatever it takes. And if he's not, if there's any reticence or there's just a slight hesitation, you end up losing Isaiah Thomas? Now where are you?
The other thing is they've had so many draft picks in that there's literally more guys than they have room for. They've had to cut players. They've had to keep players.
The dancing bears in China.
They've had to keep players overseas. Like, part of the thing is you got to have a well-balanced roster. You don't want to have too many young guys, or otherwise those young guys can't develop. And that's something that the Celtics have run into as well.
Well, a trio of all-NBA players have been traded in the last 5 months. The Pelicans gave up 3 players and 2 draft picks for Boogie Cousins in February. Jimmy Butler was traded for Chris Dunn, Zach LaVine, and the 7th pick, which became Lowry Markkanen. And Paul George was swapped for Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis. Just doesn't seem like a lot.
Well,
right?
take a look at that Jimmy Butler thing. Now, one thing to point out, the Bulls also sent the number 16 pick in that.
Why?
So that's important to see. But the Bulls got destroyed for their trade.
I mean, those are all-stars. Those are all NBA players.
Yeah, but I'm just saying the Bulls got destroyed for their trade. Now look at what the other teams got. How do you feel about the Bulls trade now? They got
still think they should be destroyed.
Okay.
Why are you giving up a pick to a team that has announced to the world we're done with our youth movement?
Okay, that's fine. I'm just telling you, look what they got back. Look what they're holding. Do you like what the Kings are holding? Do you like what the Pacers are holding? You like what the Bulls are holding? Which do you like the best?
All of those, they're not exactly created equal, though, because Jimmy Butler had 2 years on his deal.
Thank you.
Right? Paul George has said he's about to leave, and he's about to go to the Lakers.
And he's told you where he wants to go.
There's not like I don't want to be in Indiana, but maybe I'll stay with you. No,
yes, but
he wants to be in L.A.
Part of the Bulls' decision was to execute the Jimmy Butler trade now because they didn't want to get into the Paul George situation or the situation that they had with DeMarcus Cousins where he had a year and a half left. I'm just saying the Bulls have gotten destroyed for their trade. I mean, Kevin Pelton, our analyst who analyzed everything, he gave him an F.
But Brian,
I'm just saying, take a look.
I don't think he's ever given an F.
Just because someone else messed up even worse doesn't mean, oh, guess what? Guess I didn't mess up.
I'm just saying, now I think we have an idea what the market is. We see what these trade players are going for.
And also the other thing is, you set the market many times.
That's right.
When you come out and you do that, everyone else said, whoa, Jimmy Butler went for that. Why am I giving up a pick? They got a pick for Jimmy Butler.
If I was a Celtics fan and I saw that, I saw that chart we just showed. My stomach would be a little upset.
Yeah.
Well, some of it, honestly, is what do you have to offer? So the Lakers don't have as much to offer as Boston does, so they can't give up Brandon Ingram. They can't give up the 2 pick because they don't have players behind them that everybody wants. They really only had 2 key assets that people want. Boston has 4. Boston has good young players
the Lakers are
and
gambling.
2 great draft picks.
The Lakers are gambling that they will get Paul George, and if Paul George 1 year from today is sitting there across the street at Staples Center, then they'll be really smart. But if Paul George is re-signing in Oklahoma City, they're going to be like, boy, maybe we should have given up Brandon Ingram for that.
Yeah, well, the Lakers saw that trade, and I know that kind of reverberated around because I don't think they got back in. Woj was talking about, did Boston make another offer? I don't think they got back in at the end either.
That's why when people say, should the Lakers get in on the Paul George trade? No, he's coming anyway. This is why. Because he goes to Oklahoma City, and I'm one of the skeptics. I don't think this is going to magically fix Oklahoma City's season. But you don't know what he's going to experience there in terms of that kind of strong culture, very professional organization where he says, you know what? If Russ is going to give it a go, I'll give it a go with him. And now you're the Lakers, like, oh, what happened? When you had a chance to go get him, you go get the talent.
So 2 L.A. kids playing in Oklahoma City, and then they stay in Oklahoma City?
Free agents maybe next year.
Ooh, boy. Hey, guys, after the break, do you see what LeBron did? He shared some lyrics from a new Jay-Z song, and the internet thinks he stopped tweeting again. We'll explain.
He does have a track record,
I know,
right?
he does that.
He does